So in this video today, what I'm going to be discussing is basically how I came to knowing about a deadly brain tumour, basically from the signs and symptoms I had through my diagnosis into the prognosis and the steps between there, as it's a pretty hard time when you're going through it, and an interesting time that I hope people aren't going through. No one should have to go through, but it happens. So look, let me take you back to the start, and this will lead into where we end up with the signs and symptoms. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2017, and then following that, I travelled Europe for about 6 weeks into 2018. Upon my first week returning to work, I had a terrible headache that I couldn't tend to shake at all. I was taking codeine tablets, and in that same week, which I believe is February 2018, at least in South Australia, codeine became from a sold drug to a prescription, not over-the-counter drug anymore. So I really needed to go see a doctor to make this work, to take something to help my bloody headaches. Now, I'm not really one for taking many drugs, but it was really bad. I discussed with my section commander at work on a Friday that I had to sit out that pack march that day as my head was hurting me too much. I think with Hearts, that's his name, this was a sign that, something was a little bit up. I think he might have just thought I was hungover or something, or just not feeling a bit off, but I was really not one to miss PT at work or a pack march on a Friday. The next day on Saturday, I did 6 skydives for my B licence. On the Sunday, I woke up and had to ring my jump master and be like, look, mate, I can't jump. I'm too sick. Now, again, I think they might have just paid that I was he's Saturday night, just gone out and got on the beers or whatever, sort of pay it off a little bit. And I rang my section commander at the time. I was like, hey, look, Arts, this head is absolutely killing me, man. I'll be at work tomorrow, but I might sit out PT again. From there, that's when no, Willy, you are to go to the medical centre tomorrow morning, first thing, and get this looked at. And I really was against it. I was like, no, this is just, it's my first week. I'm just about to enter my second week back at work. Like, it's just a bit of stress or whatever, just from coming back. I've been traveling, I've probably still got a bit of like an accumulative hangover from traveling Europe, or a bit of jet lag or something. Like, I didn't really think any big deal of it. And even to the point where, I was like, oh, this is such a waste of time. Went to the med centre, sick parade. Anyway, I talked to the doctor and I was like, look, I don't need anything. All I just need is a prescription for some drugs, because this codeine supplement drug, this is what was helping get the headaches to really push them back so they would stop hurting me. Anyway, he was like, look, I don't want you to drive. Can you get someone to come and pick you up and take you to get a CAT scan? You're in the army. It's really easy for us to get military members to go and get a scan on their head. It's really easy. Like, no worries. What a waste of time and resource. I'll go get a bloody CAT scan on my head. I had my friend Emma drive me there. Went in, got the CAT scan, and then I was driving home, and I had a phone call from the imaging specialist or whatever they are there, get a CAT scan. Like, look, Matt, I can't get in touch with your doctor, but I need you to go and see him straight away. I can't tell you anything because I'm not your doctor. I'm not allowed to tell you something, but you need to go see him as soon as you're back at work. So I might have probably taken a detour from going to get a coffee somewhere to go straight back into work. And even there's a video of me in the foyer of that place where I was getting my scans done, joking about, imagine if they found something, blah, 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 having a laugh, whatever, back in. And then I had an MRI booked for that afternoon from my doctor because they had found a mass in the brain. CAT scan is a very low quality image comparatively to an MRI. So straight away back in to get that done. Had the MRI done, and I had an emergency appointment booked with a neurosurgeon. I had an appointment with this Dr. Zakist. Me and him didn't see eye to eye a lot of times. More will come out of that eventually. But yeah, he ended up being like, hey, look, Willy, I think it's, this is a couple of days on from that, that Monday I had the CAT scan MRI. This is probably Wednesday or Thursday that I had an appointment with this neurosurgeon. And I just thought this was such a waste of time. I thought it must have just been, I don't know, a bad x-ray or, a little growth or something that's, of course, having a tumour, cancers, that doesn't cross your mind ever in this, as it's, not something you really hear. And he was the first one, look, this is a brain tumour. And I think the initial thoughts of if someone says brain tumour to you, you sort of think you're fucked. Like, brain tumour, that is something that kills you straight away. He thought it was this oligodendroglioma type, but he's just looking at the scans of it. But he was also very surprised that it was showing up with headaches. He thought I must have had a seizure as a symptom. He was really adamant that although this is in the brain, this wouldn't normally cause headaches. What was a bit surprising, I guess, he was shocked that it was coming that way and not a neurological deficit or whatever as to where it sat on my brain. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Anyway, he booked me in for an emergency biopsy on this because, of course, they're looking at an image and just looking at the size and density and whatever to see what it is, where brain tumours, can be a variety of different things that you can't just see on a photo anyway. Probably the next week, I had booked my first ever surgery, first time I was ever under like anaesthetic for a biopsy on the brain, just here. Hopefully, if I can find a photo, it'll be up now. Cut me open, took out the thing, shaved a bit of my bloody head. That were the worst stitches of my friggin' life. Now, I thought I'd be waking up the next day, waking up later that day or the next day to get the results of that biopsy from the pathology. And so all they do is drill a hole in your skull, take out a bit, put a plate back on your skull, throw away the bit of bone and test it. Now, I thought it would be like a blood test, but that takes, within the day if you need it done. Well, no, this one apparently takes 6 to 8 weeks to come back, which seemed like an eternity because, we don't know at this point whether it's, some stage 4 GBM that's going to kill me in a week through to something just random that is not dangerous. So that period of a couple of months where it was so just unknown was the worst part of it. Within that, I had another appointment with the surgeon, and he was still adamant that he was so surprised that these headaches were still there and recurring. And he really questioned me on, do you have any other aches and pains in your body? And I mentioned that my shoulders were tight and hurting me. Anyway, it turns out I saw a physio, I did some exercise with him, did some dry needling, and my traps were incredibly tight. And a little bit torn. And we think from earlier in my life, the year before, wearing heavy body armour in a armoured vehicle in Afghanistan, sort of with your shoulders rolled over, had torn my traps and was actually causing these headaches. Anyway, I did the dry needling exercise or whatever, and the headaches completely disappeared. Although I was left with this diagnosis, the headaches had gone. So, look, I'll let you make up your own mind whether you'd like to know or not. It was a bit too late. I don't spend too much time pondering on that because I know it was discovered completely by accident. Anyway, the biopsy, I went in for I had an appointment and the surgeon basically told me that they'd had a fuck up with the biopsy and it was going to take another 2 weeks to come back. This is where me and that specific doctor really our relationship started going downhill because I thought, hang on, if this was going to take 6 weeks and you've told me on the 6th week that you had a fuck up and you didn't collect one of the samples you needed or something didn't get sent somewhere, I don't care who's responsible. At the end of the day, if you're the chief of this, it is your fault, this fuck up. It might just seem 2 weeks to you, but that could be a massive majority of my bloody life. And the mental struggle I'm going through not knowing this is bloody killing me. So that was very tough. But I got through it. What else am I going to do? I had to wait that couple of weeks, and the result came back, somewhat, as far as brain tumours go, positive, of an oligodendroglioma. His initial diagnosis was actually correct. The prognosis for these vary massively. You Google it, it'll say 5 to 7 years, maybe out to 10. But you got to remember that the average of that takes into account everyone from very young, very old, smokers, overweight people, heavy drinkers. Every variability comes into this and the survival rate for this. You can't drill down to what happens when 22-year-old males get this tumour. You can't drill down that far. So we're sort of sailing along doing our own thing, trying to look after myself as much as we can. From there, I stepped into 13 months of chemo, and that was very tough. I didn't try any really external methods of treatment as far as diet and whatever. Talking to my oncologist, my surgeon, and a radiologist, they all were pretty strongly against changing anything massively like that in my life. Now, whether that builds into the conspiracy behind it or not, that's your own decision. But the biggest thing in this is it was found completely by accident. It had nothing to do with my headaches that I was having. It was just found. Sometimes I ponder whether I'd like to know or not know, but the truth is, and something that I have to face myself, is that I do know. And it's what from here I do that is really important. But if there's anything you think you need checked out, absolutely go and look. But as much as this might scare people, I think it's also very important to know these tumours are incredibly rare. Although they're incredibly deadly, and they are very rare, and every headache you have isn't going to be a bloody brain tumour. Even mine probably aren't caused by a brain tumour. It's probably from the external stress I get caused from it. Although every time I have a headache, I sort of think, oh shit, this is it. But talking to the surgeons, when things start going wrong, when it starts growing, it will initially present as a weakness or some deficit in my right hand, right arm, or a seizure. It typically seizures with these. And that's how it'll come. And that's my first sign. They won't even send a scan. It'll come present as that as it sits on my left motor strip, which controls my right side of my body. So it sits, I can feel the plate on my head right about here. The plate I think that I bent getting in my Suzuki once. I was push starting the little four-wheel drive by myself, jumped in, smacked my head on the roof, and I think I bent the plate because I could never feel it, and now I can feel a little bit, but I've never brought that up with a surgeon because I'm too embarrassed. But yeah, from here we'll just keep going. On the surgery, the stitches they put in my head, as there's no like muscle tissue, it's sort of just like skull, I guess, and then skin. The stitches hurt so much for weeks. It was one of the worst things that I've gone through. I'd say my pain tolerance isn't brilliant as is, but that was absolutely horrible. And that time waiting for a diagnosis it's so tough. And anyone going through it, I really do sympathise with you, but, chat to your friends, do what you can, and, I guess hope for the best, or, prepare if it was to be worse. But look, let's hope it's good for you and me and everyone. So look, I've probably left a heap of stuff out on this, and I hope to do more videos in the future sort of explaining as I find out myself, because look, I'm not fully over these. But some tough things, I guess, one thing I forgot about is after my surgery, any brain surgery, you can't drive for 6 months following it in Australia. And that was tough because it just felt like this has taken so much from me, and now it's taken, driving, I think, for young people is such a freedom. It's an incredible freedom. You can just jump in your car and go anywhere you want. And that was taken away, and that was tough as well. So, look, don't let it take too much from you. But look, I hope this explains more, this casual sit down. There's a few more of these on my channel if you'd like to have a look. But I do really appreciate you guys spending some time with me today. So cheers, thank you. And any further questions, please just comment them below, and I will reply to all of them. So cheers, have a great day, guys. Thanks.